you know, different strokes.
Awesome. Well, we skipped last week, so how have you been since
Yeah,
the last time we were on a live? Good.
good. It was good to get away. Kind of put work not so much on the back
Yeah,
burner, but didn't stress out as much. And it was good for me mentally, and then getting back into the swing
good.
of things
Very
this week. So
important to
it was pretty
take
good.
care of yourself.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. And how have you been?
Yeah, I
I know
mean, I
we talked
posted about it
yesterday,
on my
but
stories, but I've had this transaction that's been supposed to close September 30th. So we had 8 extensions, and there was literally no end in sight. So we got the clear to close yesterday, and we're able to fund, record, and all that today. So it's officially closed, and we are very thankful.
amazing.
Yeah.
I know you are.
So that's good.
Yeah. So yeah, so to lead into what we're talking about today, there we go, falling. Um, we were talking Tuesday. We were talking Tuesday, just kind of like how's everything been? You know, what are our goals and what we're trying to do for next year? And we started, I don't know, just kind of going back and forth, and then we just kind of came up with this idea of like, what's the best way? We
Yeah.
don't even want this to be completely real estate focused. Like we're just talking about the world, and you know, there's some uncertainty, and the idea of the question I asked on Tuesday, what would you do with
Yeah.
$30,000 if it was given to you today? Um, and I thought really wanted to gauge what people thought, and kind of ran the numbers. I have them here when we get to it, but just talking through what to expect going forward in this market and what people are,
Yeah.
how they're
Definitely.
gonna
I
tackle
know
it,
I
I
got a
guess.
few good answers. What were some of the things that you heard from people?
So the big three were, house was still towards the top. It came in third, and then tied for no, second was pay off
Yeah.
debt, which I can't argue with. You pay off high interest debt, pay off debt. That's going to create peace of mind. Um, and then also the
Yeah.
biggest one was savings and emergency fund, which I feel like, and it's something exactly we were talking about. We were talking about, you know, we potentially want to buy a house next year, but we can't do it. Like we know it's a great time to buy in this market, but this same market being a little slower
Right.
is stopping us from
Yeah.
potentially doing that
Exactly.
because we work in it. So, but the savings and
Yeah.
emergency fund did not surprise me because I think
I got that one
it's a very
too.
smart move.
Pay off loans. I actually got a lot of like house projects also. That one was up in the top, like working on flipping houses or flipping their current
Yeah,
home. And then yeah, just house projects.
I had three people say casino.
Interesting.
So
Like they would buy a casino or they would spend money at the casino.
no. One was a joke, I know for sure, but he said go put it on black,
Okay.
win,
There you
and then
go.
buy a
Hey,
truck.
I mean, like you said earlier, different strokes, different strokes. So
Different strokes. Yeah, we're going into a high risk
all in.
environment. Let's go. Let's
Exactly.
go into an even higher risk. Yeah,
That's
all in.
funny. What would you do if you were
Um,
given $30,000
yeah, I
today?
just
What
thought
would you do?
I just I proposed this question to somebody else who
I
called
know
me, and
you're
I
caught
caught
off.
him off guard with the question. I and I'm yeah, but it's kind of going off our question or going off our conversation on Tuesday. Like it really depends on each person's financial
Hmm.
situation and personal situation of what the next 6 months looks like. Um, Me, it's tough to say, right? Because I know uh, this market is slower. There's still people buying houses left and right. Like it's still happening. It's just now there's a harder, a tougher level of it or harder level of entry. So it's tough to go like, oh, I'd go spend it on a house. It's a lot more responsibility like that. I want to.
Hmm.
I'd have to fully look at the numbers, know where our emergency fund sits.
Yeah.
It's not an easy, quick answer. Um, my gut was like, my gut would probably say house, and I'd figure out the rest. Um, but it's really tough because I think of, I wanted to talk on this as well. I was trying to help a buyer, and we've all
Hmm.
heard of the 2-1 buy down by now. Um, and it was a way to make it work. Like we were able to bring in someone as a co-signer because I knew she could make the payment, but
Sure.
it was about, qualifying income. And we got it all like everything's figured out. And I go, here's the way we can do it because she was already under contract and I was coming in to try and fix it. And I was like, we can do the 2-1 buy down. She's probably 23. And she goes, I don't know. It's too uncertain for me to want to do that and take on this higher payment, because if I can't refinance in the first
I won't be able
2 to 3
to afford it.
years, I'm stuck. Which, yes. And it's, again, it came down to, comfortability, understanding long term. It was a very
Yeah.
smart and educated decision by her. I'm just giving options and going, here's what we can do to tackle this. But I was, really proud of her. But
Yeah.
those are the kind of conversations we're having right now. It's the uncertainty. Like, it's not just an
Yeah.
easy.
I mean, we all
There's
feel
no quick
confident.
fix.
Like all the real estate professionals in the industry, both mortgage and realtors that I know, everyone feels confident that rates are going to drop within the next year, most likely. But it's true. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. Like,
Mhm.
anything could happen in between now and then that could change the trajectory of where things are going to go. And so there's always going to be a risk, and you always have to understand that. And that, like you said, that was a very informed decision. And like, the likelihood of them going down as of this
Mhm.
moment is pretty decent. But we've seen some crazier things happen. So,
I mean, the reverse of a pandemic could happen like that, where things get out of hand. I don't
yeah.
know what would cause it. If someone in the chat does know, put it in there. Uh, but I mean, there's always the uncertainty. Like,
Yeah.
no one knew a pandemic was coming, um, which then turns all this into a crazy mess. But yeah, I mean, if you're currently in the market, or you're looking at homes or whatever, just make sure you're making educated
Yes.
decisions. You're asking the questions, and we can base it off probability. Probability
Yeah.
is rates will come down. Um, that's they're more likely to come down than they are
Long
to
term.
stay
Yeah.
up, based on data. Yes, all the analytics
Same.
I'm hearing.
Exactly.
But
And just, I see we have a couple people in here right now, but please feel free to answer our question of like, what would you do with $30,000 if you were given that money today or tomorrow? What would you end up doing with those funds? We'd love to hear all your answers as well. So yeah,
or
exactly.
comment after it's posted.
Definitely.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you truly
I
answered
don't
the question.
know.
I can't remember our conversation Tuesday.
Yeah, we would
What would be
we
your
would do what we need to
what
do
would
to
be your
prepare
decision
for a
with it?
house. So, I mean, we have some student loans in our household,
Yeah.
some car payments. So we've done a good job of saving our funds, and we're prepared for that regard. But I think having some of that debt paid down would help us in the affordability. And right now that's more of our concern. It's not about the monthly payment for us, but we'll be buying a move up home. And so we want a home that
Mm-hmm.
is going to be, suited for the next stage of our life. And we don't want to have to cut too many corners. We obviously, being in the industry, it's hard walking through all these homes. You tell it to your clients all the time, like, what are your wants and what are your needs? But then when you're doing it, you're like, I want all of it. I
Mm-hmm.
need everything. So
Everything.
it's just, that kind of
Everything.
mentality. So putting ourselves in a better position to afford the kind of home that we want is what we would do with that money.
I think that's a very good answer. Because I was talking to a friend about the whole house stuff, and I was like, I guess the worst thing I can do is be
Yeah.
prepared to move and then not move. I mean, if that's, you can at least, and it's what you're saying is like, we can prepare, we can put the money where we need to, um, and then going off what you said, like, affordability for a home, but then also like comfortability,
Right.
peace of mind, knowing you've paid off some high consumer debt, high interest debt, or anything like that. Peace of mind
Exactly.
has a value as well. And I tell that to people all the time when they go,
Right.
I want to pay off debt, and I'm
I
like,
respect that. Yeah.
absolutely, that has.
I will never, yeah. When people
I
tell
can't
me
argue.
like,
Yeah, can't argue.
people who have been considering buying a home and then they decide like, we're going to pay off debt versus buy a home. It's like, I can never disagree with that decision because it's important. And, you don't want to walk around with all this debt. And, is such a thing as good debt, but a lot of times it's not. And it's good to get that off your back, and it helps you mentally. So I will never, ever disagree with that.
No, um, and it's tough. It's what's funny is I saw myself when I moved down here. You get away from the being the professional, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like the consumer in the market. I knew everything that was
Yeah.
going on. I still
It's
freaked out.
only,
It's still an emotional.
yeah.
It's still very
It's a lot of
emotional,
things out of
and
your control in any situation. No
um,
matter how much experience or how little
oh my
experience you
God.
have, there's always going to be things outside forces.
So, and
Mm-hmm.
that's for everyone right now. No one's in control. I mean, we're at the we're at the mercy of whatever's going to happen. But what you can control is just your day to day, what you're doing to prepare, maybe for what might be that worst case scenario. You know, if my plan is to
Yeah.
move, worst case scenario, I'm prepared and I don't. So we're just taking the little steps now, so that when that and it, I mean, and then it makes the house we're in now
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
more enjoyable.
So what are some of the reasons that you would decide to buy a house today if the opportunity arose?
So the biggest one I see is the fact that you can get in for less money, and by that I mean you're able to not worry about, like, it's situation by situation, but most of the time sellers are covering closing costs, so you can keep money in your pocket. And then the big one is, as we see houses trending down in price, when rates come down, you know, over the next, let's be conservative and say 12 to 24 months, it might happen sooner. Um, when rates come back down, that's going to stimulate buying again, and prices are going to start going back up. Now at
Right.
16% year over year, no, but most likely 3 to 5. And we're going to see, you're going to be able, if we're looking at just purchase price, you're going to be looking at getting homes between, I would say, now and
Yeah.
maybe April at a discount
Yeah.
for what they truly are valued
I
at,
agree.
because these interest
And I
rates are
think the
bringing them
other
down.
thing, I was in a meeting yesterday, and one of the things that someone was talking about is once we see those rates go back down, not only will we see house prices jump up again, but we will likely see multiple offer situations once more, which again is putting your buying power at risk,
Yes.
because then you have to probably go above market value, or at least, you know, those kinds of, you know, the home value at the time, and then waiving all your contingencies.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're back in that position that you were in last year. And so I think we say this all the time, but just don't wait too long. Like, if you want to buy a house, if it's something that you want to do,
Yeah.
don't keep being like, it's going to get better, it's going to get better, it's going to get better, because it's not. It might, but we don't know. I mean, we saw the housing
Mm-hmm.
market go from here to here pretty much overnight in like June, and it's just gone down. And so, and there was no indicator that like that was going to happen, but it did. And so it's important to understand that
Mm-hmm.
waiting too long can take away a lot of your power as a buyer. So,
Mm-hmm. No, I've been saying the same thing. I think you're going to bring a lot of people back to the market. People have now seen, you know, for the short term memory, you know, it was 3% was like a great rate, and now you can see what's a,
yeah,
you know, bad rate. Like, you can see what the alternative is, and 5 sitting in the
absolutely.
middle is going to look real enticing. I started I started a hashtag yesterday, and I'm hoping it picks up
There
steam.
we go.
5
Five is
is
the
the
new
new 3.
3. No, it's true. I was talking to a friend who bought right when the rates were at the fives, and she closed like 2 months ago, and she was like, "We're so happy with our 5% rate." And I'm like, "Yeah, I bet. I mean,
Yeah.
now you probably couldn't afford the home that you got into now with a 7% rate, you know?" So I don't know if we're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to talk about like specific rates, but
But well, I
okay,
mean, we're not giving a quote, so we can
there
talk
we go.
about rates in general. We just can't quote someone. Yeah, but um, no, it's just I, I I I don't want people to miss out on this
Yeah,
opportunity. That's why I talked about it on my story. There's a multitude of things that are going to happen over the next, I would even say, 3 to 5 years. You have the mix of rates are going to come back down, prices are
mm-hmm.
going to start to go back up. Then you're going to have multiple people coming back into, you know, writing offers on
Yeah,
homes, that makes, you know, it even more difficult. And you have to choose right now. You have to choose: do you want to take on a higher payment now, or do you want to have to
yeah,
choose between fighting? And I've said that before. And then, lastly, the one that scares me the most is institutional buyers and investors, bigger companies that are going to just basically buy a house, leave it vacant, or turn it
yeah.
into a
I think
rental.
I
And then
posted
we're all
something about
victims
that
of
on
that.
TikTok, like a little stitch or whatever, where someone was saying like that's the thing. Like right now, so many people are out of the market and are holding off, but those buyers who are holding on to properties for their own, you know, as rentals or whatever reason, they're going to buy up all these homes and
Mm-hmm.
take that away from you. And not only that, but home values are going to start to increase more and more and more and more. And within the next 5 years,
Correct.
I mean, right now in King County, what the average home price is, what, like 800,000. So tack on just really conservatively 3% each year. That's very conservative. I mean, that puts us in the millions in the next couple of years. And that's just a median home price. And so consider that, like, getting in now is better than getting in then when rates and, well, who knows what rates are going to be, obviously, but like home prices are just going to keep going up, and you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by not entering into a market where it's attainable for you now if it's not attainable in the future.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine something like this is the closest we're going to see to prices dropping. I mean, they are,
Yeah.
but like for what people were wanting, this is it. But I think people thought it'd be the perfect world of, oh,
Right.
prices are going to drop and rates are going to stay at
Yeah.
3%. No, like the alternative is you have to take on a higher payment for the, but it's a sweet spot. Not for everybody, but if have the
Yeah.
ability, don't wait too long. I could, yeah, like you said, I think people are prepared for 2023, and I
Yeah.
think people are prepared for those
Definitely.
rates to drop and be ready to go.
Sweet. Well, like always, if anyone has anything to add, if you did want to tell us what you would do with $30,000, like feel free before we jump off. Next week is Thanksgiving, so we'll talk to see if we're going to do one maybe earlier in the week, but maybe we'll just skip it. You'll see it on our stories, what we decide to do. Otherwise, everybody have an amazing day. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Spend the time with family. Take it to yourself. Don't work hard. Yeah,
And then
no,
don't punch anyone
the
on Black
Nintendo
Friday if you're
Switch
going
isn't
out
worth
there.
it, you guys, or the TV. So awesome. Well, thanks so much. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see
All right.
you next time. Bye.
Thank you.